So, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Yummy and how I think that, well, Yummy is simultaneously one of the best designed decks of, I guess, 2025, I suppose, and simultaneously one of the worst decks. So, it depends what perspective you're looking at it from. So, let's just make a auto gen deck, see what we get here. Uh, sure, whatever. So, why Yummy is the best deck. So if we look at specifically Yummy Pier and just Yummy Pier, Yummy really makes a lot of sense if we look at it as a Pier deck. So if we look at all of the Yummy monsters here, they all have an inherent special summon effect. If you control a Link 1 monster or a level 2 Synchro monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So technically, if I control Cupsy Yummy and I have a Cupsy Yummy in hand, if, for example, something happens to this Cupsy Yummy, let's say it gets hit by removal, so it's kind of Sprite-esque in the sense that you can't really put any of these guys onto the field after you remove a guy, because you have no way to access like a Synchro level 2 or a Link 1 monster. But a little better in the sense that you have Marshmallow Yummy, which is your one and only Yummy that you can special summon from the hand if you control either no monsters or only Light Beast monsters, which this entire archetype is Light Beast monsters. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility in the sense that you can kind of ish play a little better than Sprite. In a sort of way, you could argue this is kind of like the Sprite starter of Yummy, kind of Marshmallow Yummy. And this matters because, well, if we normal summon Cupsy Yummy and then we link off into the Link one, we can't immediately dodge with Yummy Snatchy's effect to quick synchro. But if we have specifically Marshmallow Yummy, we can do like normal summon Cupsy Yummy, special summon Marshmallow. And then when I link into Yummy Snatchy, you cannot imperm this because I can just quick synchro into any of the twos. And I guess partially what's kind of neat a little bit about Yummy is cards kind of put themselves back into the extra deck. So you only need, well, you always only need to play like one copy of any extra deck cards, like even if they don't recycle, just to minimum play the archetype, it's usually one. But this gives you kind of less incentive to play multiple copies of the Yummy cards, which is kind of interesting-ish and kind of like lame in a different way. Yeah, it depends on perspective, I guess. Because it feels like you're trying to minimize the amount of Yummy you're playing in your Yummy deck to an extent. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. So, in terms of how this how this deck plays against interruption, right? Let's say we do, I guess, normal summon a guy, Upsy Yummy. If you ash this, we still have combo, and combo in this case, it's not that insane, I don't think, right? Let's see, it would be this. Goes into Yummy Snatchy, so you can never ash this. That will go ahead, grab Mignon. Mignon activates, reborning Upsy Yummy, and then you can go into a 2. So either your Cupsy Yummy way or your Lollipo Yummy way. And then from here, this reborns 2 guys or searches 2 guys. And that means we get around, I think, through 1 interruption, you're still ending on Yummy way, and you have the ability to tag out Mignon for Acro QE. And potentially you can also, well, it depends on if you resolved Cupsy Yummy already. But if you did not, I guess you have the idea of using Cupsy Yummy to later then grab Yummy Surprise. And then this is also an interaction here with the effect of the bounce right here. So it's like fairly reasonable. I feel like if we had, I don't know, how many interactions does this actually set up? you have Marshmallow Yummy. Doesn't this have an effect to set up something? Place a Yummy field spell or Yummy continuous spell trap. Let's see. I think one of these should be an interrupt, right? Once per chain, if you synchro summon a light beast monster, you can draw one card, then place one card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. That's like not too bad, I think. But it's not that great, right? You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Yummy monster you control and one monster your opponent controls. Switch control of those two monsters. That effect's not hyper good here, is it? Monsters your opponent control loses some attack. Okay. Yum yum yummies. What does this do? Anything? If your opponent activates a card effect, and immediately after this effect resolves, link summon one Yummy Link monster. Not particularly useful. Yeah. Redemption is not really an interruption unless you can put this into the graveyard. I believe the only way you would have to put this into the graveyard is, well, you can technically search this with Cupsy Yummy, actually, now that I think about it. So, I'm thinking, if we were playing this Pier, in theory, second turn, when it's our opponent's turn, we can special summon Cupsy Yummy to search a Yummy card. And that would probably be like maybe Yummy Redemption in theory. And then we can discard Yummy Redemption when we resolve the effect of Cupsy Yummy Way. This discards a card, so we could in theory discard the trap, I guess. And that'd be a kind of Snatch Steal-ish effect. So how many interrupts does this deck put up? I mean, you have this, so that's one, and then Acro, two, and then this is a pop and a shuffle, so we'll assume they do something, so that's like 3, 4, I think. 5, maybe 5-ish. And then Cookie Yummy Way, that's like 6 interruptions per. They're all like fairly reasonable. Is this missing anything for Pier to make it more like a little bit? Would it need to be more powerful than this? Because this is pretty moderate in terms of like end board at this point in time if we're just considering kind of Yummy Pier. But so resistant to like hand traps and such, like moderately, right? That I don't think you have to be super concerned with hand traps, and you gain some more power, I guess, if you consider the fact that you will have a lot of room for hand traps because of how efficient you could get into combo here. So, and like you have a lot of different starters, just even if we're looking at just an archetype, so we're not considering like engage and whatnot. So maybe 7 or 8 interruptions potentially, depending on like what hand traps you have. In theory, if you're running like redemption as well, you could continuously draw things a few times, right? Actually, that's only on synchro summon. Maybe not that great actually to play through redemption, I think. But you still do have a pretty moderately high amount of interruptions. They're not like super high quality either. Book 2, return 2 to hand. If we consider like those as well, technically the fact that they're affecting 2 cards, if you get maximum value out of those, that's actually like we can give that point value or just roughly like 8 cards being interacted with only our Yummy cards. So already Yummy by itself is actually pretty decent. And that's before we even account for Herald of the Arclight, which you can make for some reason. Then you can also do things like you can go into like Sprite Elf, bring back IP, because you have so many extra bodies you can go into IP, and then make SP on the next turn, or like Fancy Ball or whatever. So this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, I don't think. So I guess like the question is like, why is this archetype so generic? So this is why Yummy is the worst deck, I guess. Well, in terms of card design, right? You cannot link summon link 3 or higher link monsters for the rest of this turn is technically the only restriction on this. Okay, so you're telling me I can go into like a rank 1 deck if I want to, or I can go into rank 2 if I want to, or hell, if I really wanted to, I could make 2 Heralds of the Arclight, like assuming this wasn't limited. We could make 2 Heralds of the Arclight and then make a rank 4 and then go into, in theory, Ryzeal combo. And when we detach Herald of Arclight, like off of our I guess in this case it would be the Ryzeal rank 4 that does the search too. We can add Habakiri while we're at it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's technically possible. So, what? Why is this so generic? In terms of like the dumb things you can do here, like even if we just chose simply not to link summon, that's not a problem, right? Like technically you can like even without Herald of the Arclight, like if you have no bridge, you can just hard open things with this, or you can actually bridge into some things. Well, it kind of depends, right? But you have the idea of just being able to activate Habakiri, like, and freely doing Mitsurugi combo because, you know, it's a ritual deck. So even if there were an extra deck lock, you would still be able to do this, you know, as long as you have some way into Habakiri. So for example, that this is like a really dumb way, I think, but let's say we have, well, let's see how this works. Okay, got it. So let's say we have Lamia. We could technically normal summon this if we didn't need to normal summon any of our like Yummy cards. We can just normal summon this. And actually, if we do have a Yummy card in hand with Lamia, we could normal summon Lamia, and then I'm pretty sure we could. Can't we link this up for Elmersh? No, this is too much attack. Well, this time around. But if we're really committed, I'm pretty sure. Well, no wait. Gravity controller cannot link off link monsters, so we can't do it that way. But I mean, if we were to throw in like a little bit of Fiendsmith, we can just make Moon at some point. Like this is really dumb, but we can go Moon, make Requiem on top of Moon, and then we can just leave Requiem for a little bit because this just requires you to control a Link 1 monster, and then we can special summon a Yummy monster, and then kind of Yummy combo from there. The dumbest way I saw to do this though, like this is not the dumbest way. Just throwing that out there. So you can bridge, and I hate this bridge because I just saw it today. But so imagine we start like Mitsurugi combo, right? So we start with like Habakiri effect. Habakiri tributes a guy, grabs ritual, activate ritual, and then you go a few steps, and eventually you will have Mitsurugi prayers, and then you will have 2 guys on the field, right? So what we're going to do here is, so let's assume we have Murakumo on field, okay? And we have prayers in hand, and then we would have sent like Nightsword Serpent, Reborn Nightsword Serpent effect. We have something like that, right? I believe that's what we would have, and then we would have 1 additional body. Because I believe we can just normal summon a guy, right? And even if not, it might not matter. But we'll see in a second. So I just need to check something real quick here. Let's see. Camellia. Must first be link summoned. You can only special summon Sky Striker Ace Camellia once per turn. If you have 3 or less spells in your graveyard, you can send 1 Sky Striker card from your deck to the graveyard. And then this effect doesn't matter. So this only requires that you use 2 effect monsters. Yeah, so I believe you're supposed to at some point control Habakiri, right? Yeah. It's because yeah, you have Night Sword Serpent plus Habakiri on field, and then you would link off both of them for Camellia. And the only card you should have in the graveyard is, I guess, like Ritual. So you can link off for Camellia. So Camellia with Habakiri, I'm pretty sure you reborn Habakiri at this point. So this is after the second Mitsurugi Ritual. And then you have Night Sword Serpent, so you can link that off as well for Camellia. And then this can send a card. So technically, I think all you have to do here is you send, well, I don't think you need to send Engage, but I mean, maybe you could if you really manipulated things super well to maybe get a draw, but that sounds like a pain. So just grabbing Hornet Drones is probably enough, so you can do send Hornet Drones, and then this Camellia can be linked off for Kagari, and then Kagari adds you a copy of Hornet Drones. And then from this point, you can go activate Prayers now, tributing over your Murakuma. And then during this window, you'll realize, oh, Hornet Drones is a quick play. So you can Hornet Drones during the kind of activation window here of Prayers. So it's like chain 1 Prayers, chain 2 Hornet Drones. And when you activate this, this will tribute for cost the Murakumo, giving you the main. So you'll control no monsters in your main monster zone. So you can go Hornet Drones, the special here, and then you'll have Kagari plus Hornet Drones. And then all of your like Mitsu stuff will reborn afterwards. And also, this also means that technically, if you're willing to play the Garnets for it, because of Camellia, I didn't realize this till just now, this is basically an almost equivalent bridge to like Moon for Fiendsmith. So it like, if you can just put 2 effect monsters onto the field, you can just go into Camellia. And then when you go into Camellia, you can go into Kagari, and then you can just grab Hornet Drones. And then Hornet Drones plus Kagari goes into like Yummy Way, and then that just essentially goes into Yummy combo. So now this is like ridiculously stupid generic. I mean, the only downside to this is that technically you would require some method to have an empty board with 2 effect monsters on your field, which is like probably not even that problematic for you. I mean, I guess it depends on what deck you're playing. So technically, I mean, if you were sick in the head enough, like we could do kind of a Fiendsmith combo like this, right? So I don't know how you get into Requiem, but let's say we get into Requiem, we could have started Moon, don't really care. We can cycle through a little bit, get Lacrima access. So we just need like Lacrima, Agnumde, and maybe Desiree. Then we link off, let's say, Agnumde plus something else, which I think we would have something else. And then we can go into like Camellia from here. And the next turn, maybe like idea of Lacrima reborning the Agnumde. Agnumde reborns Desiree, equips onto it. Like, yeah, you could do that. And also, of course, I mean, since we went into the Camellia, this goes into Yummy combo as well. So that's like the dumbest bridge, I think, that you could do into this, kind of, in a sort of way. I think you need like an extra Light Fiend monster in the graveyard also, to keep the Lacrima in the graveyard, don't you? Maybe something dumb like that, but yeah, if it gets there, it gets there. But you know, if we look at Yummy Pier, the archetype seems almost fine, to the point where you could just give a Branded Fusion as a kind of restriction on this. It's kind of weird because like every single one of these new archetypes don't have hefty enough restrictions in a sense. So we have like Ryzeal with a kind of restriction. I think that this is probably the strictest lock with like all these recent decks, where this has a kind of rank 4 lock, and it also locks you into this summoning kind of mechanic. And worth mentioning, you can't resolve Ekryziel's effect to search if you control something that's not a level or rank 4. Meanwhile, literally none of these other monsters really particularly care. I mean, I guess Marshmallow Yummy cares a little bit, but you can just play like one copy of Marshmallow Yummy if you really want to, and then you like discard Marshmallow Yummy, or I guess like Chopsy Yummy. Like, that'd be fine, I suppose. But yeah. If we look at this period, this plays through like hand traps like fairly well, but end board is not like too insanely oppressive. I mean, if we were looking at just Yummy Pier, I can see like some back and forth gameplays, or some back and forth gameplay between like a Yummy deck, non-Yummy deck, or maybe even like a Yummy Mirror. Could be no. That sounds pretty brutal because you invoke them in the guys to prevent access to yeah, the link one. So yeah, I don't know how the mirror goes, but it doesn't sound that great. Considering you have Yummy Surprise as well. Yeah, I mean, bounce back the guy to hand immediately. Can't summon any other guys. There's potentially that issue. I feel like, though, if you actually gave this like an insane kind of lock on this archetype, like this is where an almost Altergeist-esque lock would be justifiable, but the issue, I suppose, with that is the longevity, where in the future you might wish you didn't place the lock, because there would have been a cool synergy if not for lock. But I don't know. It's just, well, with Yummy, this is so generic to the point that you can do anything and also just slap Yummy into it at a later point in time. And that's something you can just perfectly do with no consequence, right? Like, I don't know, what's a dumb thing we could do in theory? Like, I guess we could do Yummy combo and then do DD combo, technically, because you don't need to go into a Link 3 at all in DD. And I mean, the extra deck would be a little bit tight, so that it'd be like a cat scuffed a little bit, I think. And then you do need like a lot of monster zones to an extent, but I think you can get rid of some of these guys, because you can like Yummy Surprise to technically reborn one of these guys, and then they can tag out later and then go into other things. So that could kind of work. The fact that it works at all sounds pretty illegal, honestly. But yeah, I mean, like, if we're looking at also like Ryzeal, Malice, well, I think Malice would have been insanely ass unplayable if it was actually played completely pure. Like, it's kind of mid. I mean, I don't think there was much you could have done about Malice in particular with how like they designed it. I mean, the main thing, I guess, would be to just make it not a Cyberse archetype, and then it would be not nearly as bad, honestly. I think that was like the only thing you could have really done to Malice, right? For Ryzeal, I think Ryzeal's like, it's kind of like fine. Like, if we're considering it pure, I mean, there's like some problems regarding like Ryzeal Cross and such, but yeah, I mean, it's just pretty hard to do anything about Ryzeal. I guess you could make Duo Drive require you to actually, yeah, that's probably one of the big things. Probably just change the requirement, instead of being like generic to make Duo Drive, make it like a detonator, so it actually requires some Ryzeal monsters, or Ryzeal monsters in general, like a Ryzeal monster, 1, 2, just, require a Ryzeal monster, so you can't just bridge into Ryzeal from Duo Drive. I think that's like one of the big things here. Nah, yeah. A lot of these things are too generic and can be bridged into randomly by like whatever, you know, just dumb things in general, I would argue. So I mean, like, if we look at these archetypes here, they're already doing a lot actually as well. And then if you throw in something else, that archetype might do a lot too, and it just becomes like insanely impressive, honestly. So for example, if we actually start with Reveal Habakiri and then go into Ryziel, I think that I'm going to just throw a number out there and assume that from just Reveal Habakiri, there's probably an upwards of like 9 or higher interruptions if we go into Ryziel after we start from like the Mitsurugi stuff. And that's like a 1 card too. And it bridges a little bit too effectively also, in my opinion. And the restrictions, not very problematic, I don't think. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.